just had a thought that I wanted to share, and it's around how it's actually quite cowardly not to be able to express yourself or show how you feel or say what you mean. And I think there's levels to it, because obviously there's times in life where you're not mature enough to be able to express yourself fully, whether that's developmental issues, not even issues, but just development. You know, you haven't yet mastered the understanding of how to express yourself to the fullest extent, honestly, but also maybe you haven't been around or in environments where doing that was okay and safe. And so it is courageous to be able to be honest about how you feel. And also, in that time of being honest, sometimes we are able to recognize that there are things about us that are annoyances to ourselves and painful. And so, for example, when we have arguments, if people argue and someone immediately leads towards like criticizing you negatively, saying negative things about you, being horrible to you, mean to you, nasty to you, that is almost a defense mechanism, isn't it? The other person is just shut down, and instead of sitting with their feelings of hurt, pain, like the truth of what they actually feel, they have decided to lead with aggression and anger and to project. And so it's truly courageous to be able to be present with someone and express yourself and explain how you feel. And whilst you're doing that, also navigating one another's feelings that are going to come up, because that's perfectly normal. If you're having a genuine conversation with someone, it's likely that you're going to say something that will trigger them, not because you're trying to be nasty. And so this is another level of it, isn't it? Being able to communicate in a way where you're not saying nasty things, like you're not directly attacking someone, but you are being honest in what you have to say. And that can also be taken the wrong way sometimes, but the hope is that obviously you are able to have a conversation with someone and it flows, you know. If it gets heated or if feelings get hurt, it's pivotal to be able to say, you know, hold on, can we just stop here? Can we just take a moment and sit with this feeling? Or let me take a moment to sit with what you said, because actually it's bringing up other stuff for me. Like conversation, like real conversation, isn't quick and fast and rushed, and that's obviously the way that society is, or certain parts of society, depends on where you live, I guess. But it's like, as human beings, we forgot that once upon a time conversations took a long time. Not only did they take a long time, it took time getting between people. So think about the way that people used to write to one another, and you know, just how communication got around. Everything needed time, it required time. And that's such an important thing to be aware of when you are communicating with someone you love, especially someone you love, because it's so vulnerable, right? You're in a very vulnerable space, and I guess in part the mind is trying to navigate in a way that keeps everything cushy and just, you know, perfect. And it's like, it's so unrealistic. And that is the blessing and the beauty that we can afford one another as human beings, is that actually just to be able to hold space for people, to be raw and to be authentic. And it's not a matter of whether we like it or not, it's a matter of, like, oftentimes just being heard. And I think also one thing that you definitely learn, like through therapy, and just if you're someone that journals and stuff as well, is like having things out loud, saying things out loud, having it on paper, getting out of here can change the way that you look at things. It changes your perspective, it changes your approach, it triggers a new trail of thought. So it's courageous to speak up for yourself. It's courageous to it's courageous to be able to express yourself honestly and authentically, and you know, to honour that truth and to not cower down because now someone else's feelings are a bit hurt. We're not saying to not be considerate of that, but at the end of the day, real is real. So sugarcoating anything isn't helpful, and actually you'd hope that the closer you get to people, the more real you can be, because you're stripping away these layers, right? So in a world that has told you that it's more masculine or it's more whatever to just keep it shut and not speak on things and not address stuff and not express yourself and not feel your emotions, it couldn't be further from the truth. And actually, that is probably something that hinders so many relationships, because people are not able to just say, you know what, this has really, really hurt me. I need some space. You know what, this has really hurt me because of XYZ, and giving each other the time to actually untangle the mess. Because oftentimes, obviously, we're coming at things from one point of view. It's your own point of view. So someone throws something at you, 5 o'clock, you throw something back at them, and then there's almost this battle of ego. But if you take the time to actually just take the time to actually feel what you're going through and understand it, but also greater than this, there is times when, if you've experienced certain things that you've had to suppress, the times that they come up are times when you're not even in a position, so you as the person that's had the experience are not in a position to communicate to the level that you would like to, or retrospectively you look back and you're like, oh, I wish I was able to communicate that then. When we've experienced really traumatic things and never dealt with them, in the moments that we're triggered in such a bad way, like we get the emotional trigger, the flashback, the emotional flashback, you're not even in a position to even recognise for yourself what it is that you're feeling, or how to articulate what you're feeling, how to share what it is that you need to share your truth, your story. And so I think it's also important to recognise that as human beings we can also afford, obviously with choice, but we can afford one another that, in the sense of sometimes things do happen retrospectively where we become much clearer on what it is that does need to be said or should have been said. And so that's not to say that you've got to go around, find everyone and go back and make peace. No, sometimes it is just as simple as having the conversation with yourself and being honest. And of course, obviously, if you are capable of having the conversation with someone, or the people that you do love, or the people that you want to have the conversations with, the one thing that you'll need to be met with is their courage also. They have to be open and willing to receive you, and maybe they won't understand you, and that's okay as well, but to hear is so important. You know, in life it's not always about being right, and I think that's where our egos clash, because we're trying to communicate and one of us is saying that you're right and you're right, or you're right and you're right, and it's not really the aim of the game. The aim of the game is to be heard. Like, did you hear what I actually said, and do you understand from what I've said the implications that this has had on my life and how that impacted certain moments? And you know, you just hope that there's a level of grace afforded to you, but also you understand that maybe there isn't a level of grace, maybe there isn't, maybe you don't get to have the kind of conversations that you would like to have. But the main point of it was to come on just to remind you that anyone that tells you it's not courageous to be real, vulnerable, honest, truthful is not courageous. Simple as that. Being courageous means having the conversation, even if it's not met. Like, even if you're having a conversation with someone who can't receive you, okay, cool. You can be the observer and be aware of the fact that that is what it is, but you still said what you needed to say. You still, to some degree, was heard, or at least you allow yourself to hear yourself. So it's courageous to be vulnerable and to speak your truth and to tell your story and to be honest about where you are in your journey. It's courageous to show up and continue to show up. So yeah, just I share that with you.